the word that everybody is using to describe tonight is bittersweet. It's just bitter. The fact of the matter, I'm not saying Joe Biden is bitter, but, it's like you've been thrown out a window, and as you're falling, you go, gee, it's nice out here. No, he got thrown out of a window, and basically he was forced. There's going to be a lot of talk tonight about how generous it was of him and selfless of him. He was basically forced out by Nancy Pelosi and Barack Obama and Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries.
And so begins the Democrat disaster. When even Chris Wallace of CNN sees through the BS that's being perpetrated against the American people, they ain't fooling anyone. Hey, gang, it's me, Dr. Steve, your Patriot professor, here to help you stay sane in these literally insane times. So make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. Also, if you are finding yourself in the painful position of owing back taxes, we got some patriots here that are ready to help. As I'm sure you know, the IRS is currently on its way to making everyone pay up. They've hired thousands of new agents and sent over 5 million pay-up letters in 2024 alone. But if you're dealing with this mess, I want to connect you with a real, tangible solution. Don't give up your rights or deal with them alone. The IRS is not your friend. Let Tax Network USA, a trusted tax relief firm, save you the time and money you deserve to keep. They've saved Americans, get this, over $1 billion in back taxes and have the skills needed to secure you the best possible deal. From a few $1,000s to $10 million, business to personal taxes, let Tax Network USA restore your good standing so you can strengthen your financial foundation. When your situation is secure, you become the pillar of strength our nation needs. Click on that link below or call 1-800-245-6000. That's 1-800-245-6000 for a private free consultation, or visit them at tnusa.com/Turley. All right, so last night was the opening night of the clown show par excellence, the Democrat convention. And given the Hollywood-like treatment that the Democrats and Commie Kamala have been given by the legacy media over the last few weeks, it was surprisingly bad. It was, in many respects, really an optics disaster. It all started with that cringe Doritos debacle. Did you see that? I mean, Cackles Kamala got filmed. She was filmed visiting a convenience store. It was all completely scripted. They cleared out all of the customers and replaced them with actors, with paid actors. That's a common theme throughout Kamala's AstroTurf campaign, and she literally had no idea what the bag of Doritos was in the store that she was supposed to buy. She's supposed to walk in, buy this bag of Doritos, and twice, not once, but twice, someone else had to find them for her. It was so unbelievably cringe. They actually had to film it multiple times. They had to do multiple takes, never quite got it right. When she did finally reach the convention venue, Cackles was confronted by thousands of protesters outside the arena. They're estimating that there will be upwards of 100,000 protesters descending on Chicago during the course of this week, chanting things like, "Killer Kamala is her name, killing children is her game." I mean, who needs Republicans when your own Democrat base is chanting things like that? And then as the convention got underway, ironically and weirdly, the convention floor was like a ghost town. The convention hall was practically empty. I mean, seriously. Now, just compare this to the way the Republican convention looked a month ago. You couldn't find an empty seat. And that's the way it was with all of the opening speakers. You can see it for yourself, gang. There are more empty seats than there are attendees. There's no genuine excitement here. There's no enthusiasm. They know this is a train wreck waiting to happen. Speaking of train wrecks, what on earth was the deal with AOC's bizarre phony accent she broke into in the middle of delivering her cringeworthy speech?
And I, for one, am tired of hearing about how a two-bit union buster thinks of himself as more of a patriot than the woman who fights every single day to lift working people out from under the boots that breathe, trampling on our way of life.
These people really are just a parody of repulsiveness. But the highlight of the night last night was, without question, Biden's final humiliation. He arrived at the convention looking utterly confused, completely dazed, zoned out, as if his brain just simply couldn't process the situation that he was in. And when he did finally get up to speak, which, if you can believe it, wasn't until 11:30 p.m., they literally shoved him out of the primetime spot. The current president of the United States, gang, was shoved out of the primetime spot. I mean, the DNC buried Biden's speech to literally the midnight hour when no one was watching. And they did it for good reason, because when he did open his mouth, I mean, there literally are no words that can even begin to describe it.
In its decision overturning Roe v. Wade that you heard earlier tonight, the United States Supreme Court majority wrote the following, quote, "Women are not without electoral or political power." No kidding.
The New York Post is calling it Biden's final embarrassment. It's his final public humiliation, his final insult. When all's said and done, this guy is going to go down in history as perhaps the biggest political failure in our nation's history. His election was just controversial from the get-go. And then after he assumed office, he went in to oversee the total unraveling of the American economy, our national security at the southern border, and of course, the unraveling of the entire international order. Wars abroad, depression at home. That's Biden's permanent record. In fact, it's so bad, Kamala is doing everything she possibly can to try to run away from him and his record. She is, if you think about it, she is campaigning against her own administration's record. That's what she's doing. She is campaigning against her own administration. It's the most bizarre thing imaginable. But take a look at this embarrassment from their very own official platform, gang. We talked about this on last night's live stream, as if things couldn't get worse. This is the Democrat National Platform. It's the official platform of the Democrat Party. Can you believe it? Their official platform in several places still cites as their standard bearer President Biden. It says his name over and over again. President Biden's second term will do such and such. They literally forgot to switch out their candidate before they published their platform. These people are so incompetent, they published their official platform, but forgot to switch out in numerous places Biden's name with Kamala's name. It's insane. And it's just further proof that everything the legacy media is doing here is a psyop. It's a totally astroturf campaign. None of it is real. And there are cracks in the legacy media that are admitting that, even from inside Kamala's own campaign. This is from Reuters. Take a look at this headline. There's a growing admission that the polls surrounding Cackles are totally artificial and inflated. I mean, we've talked about this a lot over the last few weeks, gang. Even her own people are starting to admit that the polls are the result of what's called response bias, where the polling sample includes a disproportionate percentage of a candidate's supporting constituents that are not predictive or reflective of the actual demography that will come out and vote on election day. Which means that's really just a schmancy way of saying that these polls are fake. They're not accurately predictive of what the election will actually be like, which is the whole point of polling. Polling is supposed to give us an idea of what to expect on election day in terms of where we are right now in the election process. And when you have a bunch of these polls that are featuring disproportionate amount of Kamala's supporters in the polling sample, one that will not be replicated in the general election, then these polls are for very different purposes. They're not there to inform us of what to expect on election day. They're there to generate a narrative. They're there to generate money, to placate donors and persuade them to give lots of money to Kamala. Or they're there to deflate and discourage the opposition. Whatever the purpose, they are emphatically not for the purpose of accurately predicting what the election outcome will be. For their part, the Trump campaign is running an absolutely devastating TV ad all over swing states this week. Check it out.
Kamala Harris was given one important job as vice president: monitor and control our southern border. How did she do? Did she take the job seriously? Did she do all she could to protect American citizens from an invasion? Did she do anything at all?
You haven't been to the border.
And I haven't been to Europe. And I don't understand the point that you're making.
Here's her grim scorecard: murders, rapes, attacks on children, a 12-year-old girl in Texas, a mother of 5 in Maryland, a nursing student in Georgia, all savagely murdered by those Biden and Harris led into our country unlawfully.
We have a secure border.
Kamala Harris was and is a complete failure at her job. Now she's asking us for a promotion? Who in their right mind would give it to her? Restoration PAC is responsible for the content of this advertising.
That was brilliant, and it reflects one of the key strategies that Trump needs to employ to really deliver the coup de grace against Commie Kamala. Kamala, for these last 3.5 years, has had one job to do. She's been in charge of one thing, and that's the southern border. I don't care if you call her border czar. I don't care what. She was undeniably in charge of the southern border come these last 3.5 years. She's been in charge of one thing. So how did she do? Objectively speaking, how did she do? Obviously, it was a disaster, and everyone admits it. All the polls are showing that voters overwhelmingly trust Trump more with the southern border than they do with Kamala. Obviously, voters recognize she's been an utter disaster at the southern border. But here's the kill shot, as it were. She's been in charge of one thing for these last 3.5 years. Can you imagine her in charge of everything? That's what that commercial did. It brought home to every single voter the disaster that will be Kamala if she's in charge of everything. And the whole nation can already see it with this disaster of a convention.